Hello, everyone, and welcome. Gregg Bendian here with the ProgCast. And today I have a couple of my favorite musicians from my deep, distant past, but also musicians that I've been following up till the present moment. We have Rick Witkowski and John Palumbo from Crack the Skye. Welcome, guys.
Thank you. Welcome. Thank you.
I should say as a bit of as an introduction, I was about 13 years old in 1975 when Crack the Skye's first album came out. So that's 45 years ago. 45 years ago.
Yeah.
And my situation with Crack the Skye was a little unusual in that my middle school classmate, Allison Kernett, was the daughter of Phil Kernett, who was intimately involved with Crack the Skye in the early times, and actually up to the present moment. It's how we got in touch. Phil is also my lawyer and the lawyer for the Bottom Line, where I work as the archivist. And Allison brought in this album.
Yeah.
And gave me this copy of this album, and it blew my mind. And I don't think certainly wasn't disappointing or surprising to see Crack the Skye on the top 50 prog rock albums of all time in Rolling Stone. So I know that you guys don't particularly embrace the prog rock label, and we can talk about that. But I'm really curious about the history that leads up to that moment where you guys finally do get a record deal on Lifesong. And what West Virginia was like in the 60s and 70s, because it seems unusual to many of us that think of prog bands or rock bands that grew around major cities, around metropolises. What was West Virginia like in the 60s and 70s, John?
Go ahead, Rick.
We live in the northern panhandle of West Virginia, and we're basically like a suburb of Pittsburgh. So there is a big city near us. It's like half hour away from us, basically. So, but work-wise, we were trying to do original music and trying to get work in the clubs, and that was very difficult. And so that's why we ended up packing our bags and heading to New York, because there just wasn't much work in this part of the town, in this part of the country.
Because we were located in a small town.
And small town.
Yeah, and Pittsburgh was like really its own entity. So we couldn't even go to Pittsburgh anymore, right?
Well, yeah. It wasn't much, work to get original. We were trying to do.
Yeah, we could do the band, right.
Yeah. So we went through a period where we did try to do some covers and throw in. We got hired some few places. We used to have there was a bar in Steubenville, Ohio, where it only held like maybe 80 people, very small. But every Thursday night we would set up there, and that would be like our testing ground. And we would, we stayed true to our form. We would do all our original stuff, and we kind of had we started getting our little following there. It was a place called Octopus Garden, I believe.
Yeah, you remember all that. That's great. Good memory.
Yeah, but then it came to the point where that man couldn't survive on octopus alone. We had to try to move on. And so John and I, we had a 3-piece band after a while called Uncle Louie. It was me, John, and Joey D'Amico, our original drummer, and we did all. I mean, it was all covers just to try to make money.
Good covers though. We chose good stuff, Bowie and T-Rex, and yeah,
and we did some Allman Brothers even, like One Way Out and stuff like that. But
Allman Brothers is a trio.
Yeah, John in particular said, I can't do this anymore. It's like I was having fun playing the clubs and stuff, but he said, I can't keep doing this. So we literally just just decided to drive to New York City and start pounding the pavement. And because we tried making demo tapes of ourselves, and we weren't very good at that.
No.
We figured if we can get in front of some live ears, if we could just get somebody to listen to us, we would blow them away. And
that was without Joey. That was with just Ricky and me. And with acoustic guitars.
Yeah.
So we didn't have the full band of three.
Yeah, it wasn't an original band.
Right.
Versions of the song we had, and we had very unique style of. We would work incessantly on like rapid fire back and forth guitar riffs, and that was our forte. And we happened to catch a guy named Terry Minogue who worked for Cash West Productions, who Phil Kernett was I think he was the president of.
One of them.
Yeah, and we caught him. He had just started working for the production company. It was a weekend, and we got him on the phone. He said, come stop by the office. So we stopped by the office, and this is our big moment. I still remember, JP, he was so nervous.
Yeah.
His hands were shaking like I had to tune his guitar. We were like, this is like, oh, okay, this is our big moment. But we got through, once you start playing, and Terry sat like, we were sitting in two chairs next to each other, and he sat, like 3 feet away facing us. It was real intimate and close. And I remember getting done with the first song, and he just had a look on his face. He says, I've never heard anything like that before. And we knew we had him from that point. And so, and so he was inspirational in us and trying to get us signed to Cash West, who he was working for. And we would make tapes at the production facility at their offices in New York. And at that time, Cashman West, they were Jim Croce's producers.
Right.
And they had a pretty successful pop. They also produced like Spanky and Our Gang, and they were Cashman West were songwriters, and also they had songs in the top 40 and stuff. And Crack the Sky, our stuff was diametrically opposed, kind of almost to what they were into. But I think
Terry Cashman wrote "Sunday Will Never Be the Same," correct?
Yes, Spanky and Our Gang. I love that record. Yeah, I think they were letting Terry, he was trying to develop us, and then we got involved. Like he would play them our tapes, and now they're not ready, and then I think Terry, I don't know how it happened. Marty Nelson and Billy Kirkland, they end up forming like a triumvirate production company, and we start making demos up at Minot Sound in White Plains, New York. And I think and before that demo started happening, we decided, like, as a duo, like our kind of John's songs in particular would be better fitted with a full band with arrangements. We really weren't an acoustic act. So we moved back home, got our band together, did our Octopus Garden thing like I was telling you about, and then we kept in touch with Terry, and we was then he brought us up to him, Marty Nelson and Billy Kirkland brought us up to White Plains, and we had some kind of deal working out with those guys, and the owners of that studio became interested in our band. And then once we got our demo finished, I think Cashman and West heard it and said, well, this is good stuff. And
then they wanted
Terry works for us, and that's our band. And it turned out, they were going to shop us, and Cashman and West said, no, this is our band. And it turned out like there was some kind of lawsuit before our record, before we even got signed to the label. I think
we were in court before anything.
Yeah. Oh, so that went on. But eventually, so at that point, we ended up moving. We brought the whole, after we did these tapes, and we sparked the interest of Cash West again. We talked them into letting us move up to New York area so that we can work on original music, and they were going to try to showcase us and get us a record deal on another label. And so we spent like almost a year in upstate New York, we were supposed to be rehearsing, and but we drank a lot of beer, and we we kind of just
we did rehearse though. We did.
We did it at the house. Yeah. And we would occasionally go into the city at SIR and do. They would have a label come in, and we'd do our set on a soundstage there, and then it was like playing in a room to dark people. We didn't even know who was there, and then we would meet, shake hands a little bit, and then they would go away, and then finally, I think here's what happened. Jim Croce dies in a plane crash, and then the label, Cashman West, decided to start their own label, which was Lifesong Records, and they decided, well, Crack the Sky is going to be one of our artists. Instead of being on pitching us to another label, they kept us for their own label. So it was us. Henry Gross was one of the artists. I'm not sure how many.
Dean Friedman.
Yes.
Yeah, Dean Friedman.
Right. A couple of his tracks. Dean Friedman and Cash. I think Cashman West.
Robbie's band. Robbie's band was.
Oh yeah, UFX. Is that what it was?
USX. Yeah.
USX.
Yeah.
That's the symbol for US Steel, I think, USX. Anyway, yeah. I mean, so so our first record came out, and the distribution they were an independently distributed label. It was national release, but it was through independents, and then they acquired we signed a contract with them that was all encompassing. They signed us to a record deal, a publishing deal, a management deal. So they was like, I guess in these days it's called a 360 deal, where they they kind of own everything, and they delegated manager to us, and that first album they delegated a guy named Derek Sutton, who ended up he was an English guy, and he managed I think he did Jethro Tull for a while and stuff in England, and he left.
Sabbath.
Yeah, Styx.
He brought Black Sabbath over.
Did he? Oh, okay.
Yeah.
But he put us out on the road, and and when midstream in the road, he got a call from Styx to manage them, and he was going to take them on, and he was kind of we weren't very roadworthy. And I'll speak. My brother John there hated being on the road, and so we would like make every excuse not to play gig. Derek put us through, like he wanted us to pay our dues, and he put us in some really weird situations for a prog rock band. Like our first gig after our release of our record. This is November of 1975, and so the very first gig we play at a place called My Father's Place in Long Island, but he had us opening for Lester Flatt and Earl Scruggs.
Yeah.
And they're a bluegrass band.
Yes, they are.
Lester they wrote the Beverly Hillbillies theme.
Mm-hmm.
And so Crack the Sky opening now it's just, I mean,
It didn't work.
And did you see the movie? You saw the Blues Brothers movie, right? Where their Blues Brothers are playing in this place in the South, and they have a screen in front because people are throwing stuff at. They should have had a screen in front of our stage because they were throwing stuff at us.
Yeah.
And I'm thinking, this is our big moment. We're going on the road. This is our first gig. We got to have a national record out, and it was like, it was a little disheartening. But we persevered. He took us up through Canada, and then next thing you know, we played a discotheque, when that was unbelievable experience. Then we came back into the States, and I think like Rochester or Buffalo, one of those cities, there was like all of a sudden there was people in the crowd, and there was people showing up, and it was like, and then we came into Baltimore, and Baltimore. Like we had 4 shows. It was a little tiny club called Cross Keys. Four Corners. Yeah, it was in Cross Keys, Maryland.
Yeah.
And we had 2 nights booked there, 2 shows a night. There was 2 shows on Friday, 2 shows on Saturday, and they were all sold out. And we pull into town, and there's a band called Sky King open for us. And Sky King was Dave Brubeck's 2 sons.
Oh, yeah.
And they were incredible. And we pull up to the venue. And it's a very small club. There was no dressing room. They had little trailers outside for us. And you could hear the band playing inside. And I got so nervous. Like, I said, this band is opening for us. And it was like, what is going on? And so they cleared the stage. We walk into the club, after they got done, our stage was set. Walked into the club, and before we got on stage, we had a standing ovation before we played one note. And I can remember a guy going, Witkowski! Was yelling. I said, he knows my name, or someone knows my name here. And needless to say, we were getting airplay in Baltimore and in regular rotation.
Well, the whole thing was, we got airplay. They had the records were in stores.
We're in the stores.
We had, so the distribution was all together and promotion. So everything was intact, which is, why I think part of the reason why we exploded in Baltimore. People knew the material and could buy it,
Well, I remember the album being played pretty heavily on WNEW in New York City.
Oh, really? Okay.
Oh, yeah. And in fact, wasn't there like a promo live thing that was being put on the radio as well?
Boston. That was
we recorded at Boston. WBAB. I think that was at Long Island or something. There was a promo. We did a live recording.
I thought that was Boston.
We did one in Boston too, but the one they released, the radio station, I think it was. Is that BAB? Is that a Long Island radio station, Greg? Would you know that?
I don't know that one, Rick.
Okay, I think that's what our record is from. In fact, I might have it. Someone gave that to me, Steve. He says, "Hey, I found this. They were moving." He says, "I found this. You might want to have it." It's a copy of the promo thing. It wasn't for sale public. It was passed out through all radio. It was a promotion thing.
And I remember hearing live versions of Hold On Surf City that knocked me out. And I, as a young person, I didn't get to see Crack the Sky live. It was only until...
Too young.
I was too young, right? And I was going to the Bottom Line around probably within a few years of that, but I think I missed you guys when you played at the Bottom Line.
We had one, at least back then, I think it was one shot, right? We opened for Man for Man, I believe.
Yeah.
The first album is so extraordinary, just in terms of the variety of material, which was very much the order of the day in terms of groups that were trying to do something different. I always felt like you guys have been doing something out of the ordinary for pop, rock, songwriting, whatever you want to land on. And the first album was critically well received, but I'm guessing that there were distribution problems, there were promotional problems that sort of held it up. But I'm curious about how you arrive at that material on the first album, and really what the inspirations were. What were the influences? Who were the guys that you were really excited about as young up and coming musicians? John?
Well, I think to have an album with so eclectic, our main influence were the Beatles. So if you listen to White Album, it's like all over the place, So for me especially, it was just writing, here, there, everywhere.
That was revolving.
No pun. It's no pun, right? And it just seemed to come natural. My dog is barking.
I saw your cat walking there.
Yeah, no, that was a dog. That's how pathetic they are.
Oh, okay.
So I hope that I answered that for you.
Well, who besides the Beatles, who were you into?
Oh, Ricky was into older stuff. You were into, you've always been into like the 60s stuff and
soul stuff, Motown stuff, but
Motown, right?
I have an older sister, 5 years older than me, so she liked all the doo-wop stuff and all that. But like bands like
Genesis and Yes, and King Crimson,
Jethro Tull.
They
were my first arena concert. I went and saw. I think it was Thick as a Brick, and I was ready to be a disciple of Ian Anderson at that point.
Where did you see Thick as a Brick?
What's that?
Where did you see?
At the Civic Arena in Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania.
And was the opening band Gentle Giant?
I think they might have been. Yeah, well, I think they were, but I think they were. General Giant got to open for us at one point too.
Is that right?
Yeah, at Towson State University, I think. Once after our third album was out, but it was General Giant, I believe. But
we saw General. You and I went to the Beacon Theater and saw him.
Who?
We saw you and I
General
went.
Giant.
General Giant, yeah.
Yeah, and
they were like the first that had the lasers, and we were just like knocked out by that laser lighting. It was like, what is that? You know, planes would.
That's right.
Planes would come. We were just, oh my God, what is that?
Yeah.
But I remember about the Jethro Tull thing. What was so cool about them, like they were setting up the stage. They had road crew guys. They had outfits on. You know, they had matching outfits. The next thing you know, they were all walking around stage. And then next thing you know, they take off the thing. It's actually the band, you know, setting up their own stuff. And then he just started singing, "Really don't mind if you sit this one out." I was like, "Oh, it's so awesome!" I love. And and after that point, they played in Johnstown, Pennsylvania, and I went out there to see the band, see it again, because I was just like, I did want to be I wanted to be a disciple of Ian Anderson. I thought he was Jesus on earth. You know, it was like he had this all figured out.
Yeah, he did.
But I mean, it's another interesting point that Tull was also a variety of things.
Oh yeah.
You know, and so there was acoustic, and there was counterpoint, and there was development, and there was long form stuff. And it seemed to me like you guys had kind of an American version of these things, and a lot of American bands are influenced by British bands, as we just established.
Yeah.
But
we wanted to be British. Yep.
Yeah, we did.
And speaking of long form, like our stuff before our first album, we had to kind of condense stuff because we had a piece called High Mass. It was like we had it was like 30 minutes long concept piece.
Went on forever.
Yeah, and a song called that was the longest piece I think we have. But we had a bunch of very long pieces that you know. The label, I think, was
amazing. You brought up Jethro Tull. I forgot all about that, but yeah, they were like really influential for us.
Yep. Yeah. Jethro Tull, King Crimson, 21st Century Skid Row, man. So that's definitely one of our big ones. And I remember John and I got to see Robert King Crimson live. Yeah. We were working we were working for a production company. As security, they hired us, and it was a theater in downtown Pittsburgh, like the Beacon Theater, something like that. And we're supposed to keep people out of the aisles and stuff. And King Crimson come on, and everyone rushed the stage, and me and him both down there together, like trying to get close and watching.
Right, and no smoking. I was smoking, sitting in the aisle.
And we were supposed to be keeping people out of the aisles, and we get tapped on the shoulder, and some guy says. And he points the flashlight at it. He says, "What are you guys doing? You're supposed to be helping people." And we go, "That's Robert Fripp. That's Robert." We were
just so knocked out by the whole band, actually. Yeah.
It's awesome. It was awesome.
Yeah.
Well, you know, they provided the roadmap for so many bands. And I think that just a big part of that time period is that, you know, you're doing ballads, you're doing rockers, you're doing more conceptual stuff. And I loved that about Crack the Sky, that you had your way of doing it. And it was, I think, in many ways uniquely American because you also brought in funk. Yep. You brought in more danceable kind of stuff. But then you had things like Sea Epic.
Oh, the clock.
Yeah. Well,
sorry, that's my computer.
Oh, okay. Yeah, we can, I guess because of all the prog influence, I don't think we have any song of ours that would stay in 4/4 time all the way through the song. Well, She's a Dancer might have. That has
there are some. Yeah.
Yeah, but
the ones we like to do are not that.
But like the funk aspect, Joey D'Amico and Joe Macri, they were in a band called the Moving Violations way before our band started, and you know. they were a horn band. They used to do James Brown stuff, and that influence was there. That's American side. But other than the funk stuff, we did tend to be more British for sure. Yeah. And go ahead.
What was the live response when you guys are touring with bands like Yes and Kansas and Rush?
Live response was very good. I mean, we would end up doing a half an hour, so you can only do so much, especially when some of our songs were that long. But it really depended on who we were opening up for. Like if we opened up for Ted Nugent, the response was not that good. But when they put us with the Electric Light Orchestra and some other bands that were, kind of like the same genre, we did well, I think, Ricky. We did.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, we did good. We got thrown off a lot of tours.
Well, not a lot, but we got Kansas one. I think we got. There was some incidents. Well, there was an incident with the road crew and not. I've
not giving us production and all that. Yeah.
Space on stage. We couldn't put our piano. John, at that point, he would play piano on half of the night, and guitar the other half. And
you toured with a piano?
Yeah,
not a real one, like a Wurlitzer, right? Rhodes, Fender Rhodes.
Yeah. Some of them, JP. Some of them early gigs, we would rent grand. They would have grand
and
piano.
Mellotron.
And we had Mellotron too. Yeah, yep. You had to have a Mellotron if
you had to have a Mellotron.
But I think there was an incident with them, and then JP made a little snide remark from the stage on one of the nights, like, well, I know you're waiting for the stars of the show, and he was apologizing. So, we really didn't get a sound check, so we're sorry about that. But it's all about the stars of the show. You were a little sarcastic about it. I think
yeah, right.
He was a lot sarcastic. I'm trying to.
I was terrible. I was terrible.
And that was our last gig with Kansas.
That wrapped that up, right?
So I don't know if it was much about the playing as it was about just
yeah.
They didn't. We didn't get
attitude.
The attitude. It was the attitude. Yeah.
Did you guys open for Yes?
No, I don't know where that came from. I don't ever remember opening for Yes.
And you had an interesting run-in with Frank Zappa around that time.
Well,
yeah, that was.
We got to do 2 gigs with him.
Yeah, we were in Erie in a skating rink, and their gear got hung up in Canada because they were coming down, and they asked if they could use our gear. Am I right, Ricky?
Yeah, I think so.
Yeah, and because your memory is much better than mine.
Yeah, so some stuff like this, I remember you telling this story, but I know that they were waiting. I know they were very late getting there. I know that, and then
right.
I think we let them use our gear. Yeah.
The crew was late. Yeah, but the band was there.
Yeah, the band. Frank was there, and people were around. Like he was out on stage. I think he was talking to people and stuff. And that.
Yeah. And then he did 2 shows. He did a show with our gear, and then he did a show with his gear.
That's right. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, but what I do remember about that night, though, I didn't get to catch the second, because after we got done with our set, there was the premiere of is it called the Ruddles? What was the goof on the?
The Ruddles.
It was It was a network premiere of the Ruddles.
Right.
So
you went to watch.
We went back, and Mac and Jimmy. I don't know if you went back or not, JP, but I remember like hurrying up to try to go back and catch the Ruddles. Then we came back over to the hotel. Then we were in the hotel lobby, and Frank was after the show. He was down in the lounge, and we were trying to impress him, get his attention, and we were acting. Me and Jimmy Griffiths, the other guitar player at the time, we were acting silly and dancing with each other, pretending. Try to make Frank Zappa laugh, and he wasn't amused. He sat there and just looked at us and was drinking his coffee, and we tried to talk to him, but he was kind of, at least to me personally, he was very kind of aloof, very short answers, and so I didn't want to bother him too much. Now, JP, I don't know if you talked to him or not, but
no, I watched him do Dynamo Hum with the waitress. when he
Oh,
came and did that.
So you stuck around. We went back and watched the run. I didn't see the show.
And then I did talk to the bass player and who explained to me how he got the gig, which is sight read. You just sight read. He sends you stuff, and Zappa sat there. You'd have music, and then if you could sight read it, you had a shot and play it. So that
the audition stories are pretty consistent. I had Chester Thompson on the ProgCast. I had Don Preston from the Mothers, and reading and also being able to just think on your feet was that whole gig.
Yeah.
You know, in the middle of something, he'd cue you and you'd have to go to that thing.
I know. I remember the first time we opened for him, just watching him, you know, they'd be playing and all of a sudden he'd stop and just point. And then they would just go into something like totally on another tempo, another key.
Oh, it was amazing.
It was mind-boggling. He was awesome. Wow.
It seemed to me like he would have dug you guys because some of your stuff seems very Zappa inspired to me.
Well, he just, like Ricky said, he did his stuff, did his bit, and then he just kind of like left.
Yeah.
So I wouldn't know if he was into it or not. He wouldn't really tell us that. That's not his person. It was not his personality.
Yeah.
So
he might have dug it. But I think we had. I don't know if his management, okay, he didn't have a lot of, from what I understood, not a lot of people got to open for him. Is what.
No.
Yeah, so we got to do it twice. So I think he had to either approve of it or his management had to approve of us opening, because from after the fact, I heard it's like, well, you open for Zappa, you know, they have opening acts.
Yeah.
So we're kind of lucky in that respect. So maybe he did hear us and like us.
Could be.
Was the touring heavy in the beginning of the first couple albums?
Sure, we were out. Yeah. We crossed the country 2 times. Was it twice or 3 times?
At least twice.
Early. At least twice.
I can remember that driving back, and you know we had 2 rent-a-cars at that point. And I remember specifically being in California, and we ended up having a gig back in Pittsburgh. Like it was, we had to be there in like 3 days.
Yeah.
And we just like hauled, and you know, we had no stop. We would take breaks, you know, switching off driving, and we got to Pittsburgh. Like we left on Friday, and we arrived at like early on Friday California time. We got back to Pittsburgh like at 10 o'clock at night.
Yeah, we made it right.
And we didn't make it because I don't know if that was when we were doing, I think, Roxy Music. We opened Carnegie Mellon or something for them.
Yeah.
And we had to we only had like 3, maybe 4 days, but we had to make the drive in 3 so that we could be ready for the gig the next day.
Right.
That was probably the hardest stretch of the tour.
It was a haul.
Yeah, it was a haul.
Yeah, I mean, I remember as a teenager going to these double, triple bill shows, and you would go for the headliner, but then you'd get turned on to another band by hearing them open for the band that you went to see.
Right.
And, you know, you would have been, I think, very lucky to go to a rock show and see Crack the Sky when that wouldn't have been a typical opening band. I mean, very often the opening band would be a throwaway. But were you guys getting tired of the opening thing? Like, how many headlining shows were you able to tour at the beginning couple records?
We didn't headline.
Yeah, we didn't.
We did not headline. No, we weren't that well known to headline.
Yeah. The only place we would headline would be like Baltimore. You know, after we came back to Baltimore, and like after that Cross Keys of a Four Corners gig, the next time we would come back into town, we played a place called Hollywood Palace, and that was like 1,000-seat capacity.
Yeah.
And then the next time we came back into town, we got to do the Civic Center. There was like it was Foghat, it was Boston, Foghat, and Crack the Sky. And it was like kind of like one of those shows you're talking about. They gave us, because of our popularity in the air, I think we got a pretty decent set that night.
We did. Yes, we did.
Instead of their typical 30 minutes, we had a little longer set that night.
Yeah.
And but it was all just mostly Baltimore area. That's the only place I can remember really headlining early on. Everything else, it was kind of opening up.
Right.
Even in Pittsburgh. Well, we did do a few, like when we came back to Weirton down here. There was a football field, a stadium. We ended up doing we were headliners that night, but it wasn't like nationally a big produced concert. It was some local people from town in here decided to have a concert at the football stadium. We had a lot of local bands opening, and we were the headliners there. But very few in between I can think of us headlining early. Not until like after on Safety and Numbers, we started doing a little bit more, and that's when John actually left. He had his little
and that's when Lifesong went to CBS distribution.
Yeah.
So that would make sense that they would at that point get a little more juice.
Yeah,
John, did touring burnout contribute to you wanting to leave? What was going on at that time with you?
I was ill. I was suffering with lots of anxiety problems, and I was on some stupid diet.
Fish and donuts or something.
Fish and donut diet. And,
he was hypoglycemic. I remember. I had never heard the term before. I remember.
Yeah, I was all screwed up. So it affected me to a point, and not to mention I had like a massive ego, and so
really,
I just said, I've had enough of this, and I remember Lifesong also would contribute to it. They wanted a hit record, which is understandable. They wanted me to write a single, and I was like, you know what, I've had it, and that was it. And I didn't even think about the band. I just left. It was ignorant to do that, but that's what happened.
Yeah. Plus, I could add. I remember from the get-go, from the first album out, John was a big Randy Newman fan, and he loved piano and just played.
Right.
He was one of his idols, and I remember he say, "I'm tired of having to worry about like having to write music with two guitar parts, and I just want to play my piano and sing and stuff." So that I know that added to a lot of it too.
Probably did, yeah.
Oh, he wanted to be Randy Newman.
I did. Like you were with Jethro Tull, I was with Randy Newman.
Hey man, nothing wrong with that. Randy Newman's a national treasure.
Oh yeah.
So John, did you bring demos to the band? What was a demo like when you were coming up with material? And then Rick, were you involved in the arranging? And there's these wonderful guitar arrangements in Crack the Sky music. How does it all start out, John?
The demos, geez, I can't remember back then, but the band always arranged the stuff. So I would bring songs in that were raw. And then the band was so good, they would just, we would all participate in arranging songs. Later on, when everybody got a studio, it changed. Excuse me, because I was able to, to do parts here at the studio, and would send those parts to the band, particularly Ricky, and they would arrange at that point on their own.
Yeah, and that's when the internet came. That was in the early 90s, that period. But in the early days, I specifically remember, some of the songs we had started, just me and Jay, we pulled some of the old ones out, but it would go, if he had a new song, he would come to rehearsal, play the song, and then we would pair off, like me and Jimmy would go in. We had a rehearsal space we rented. It was an old house that had a basement, bunch of different
place. Yeah.
Yeah. So we would go, me and Jimmy would go off into one room and come up with parts by ourselves. Joe and Joey, they would be in a room with the bass and drums, just them two working on stuff, and then we would converge and then start play parts that way. You know, sometimes it would happen all of us in a room at the same time, and but a lot of times, you know, we'd start out that way, and then we would pair off. But
well, you know, there's a piece that I have a favorite piece of mine for Crack the Sky, which is Nuclear Apathy, and I think it's just an unbelievable combination of songwriting and instrumental playing and development of ideas. So what, if you can recall, like what would the process be with something like Nuclear Apathy?
Well, I was gone after that. I wasn't there.
But you wrote it, right?
So here's what we had worked on that song prior to. We were ready to go in the studio to record it.
Right.
So that was your acoustic intro. You know, you had that part. Jimmy took and made, you know, expounded on it, but you had that song, and we had started working on that song in Bearsville, I believe.
Oh, right.
And then you left the band. So we ended up recording it on Safety Numbers. You left the band, but you were part of, you know, the arrangement. Like side one of that record, I think we had all worked up as a band while you were planning on recording. You were going to be the lead singer,
right?
Until you left, and then the other half of it, after he left, we start putting songs together as a unit.
So how does that middle guitar extravaganza come about?
That was another thing where me and Jimmy, I think,
right? Yeah.
We end up, you know, getting together and just, I think Jimmy, that might have been like a, you know, a warm up. You know, you do things that you do to warm up. Scale. I think he might have had that pattern as a scale, and then I decided, well, I'll put a harmony to that. Let's take it up. Let's go up. You know, we would play that. And I think we worked on that as a band, probably because, you know, they had to get our hits together in that middle section, and then we would stop, and then John would play the piano. It was all. I'm sure we did that as a band, and it was probably done in Bearsville, New York, at the
Todd's place.
at that barn, you know, the rehearsal space there.
Did you guys run into Todd around that time?
They did. Didn't you?
I got to meet. He was playing pool one place, and you know, we ended up having his. Yeah, this is after you left, and we ended up using his crew for our tour, and so we were in Bearsville. They had to pick up some gear at Todd's place at his studio there, and there was a pool. I don't know if it was a bar or if it was somewhere close to his studio. I don't even know if it was, maybe he was even connected. I know he was playing pool one day, and I got to go in, and I introduced myself, shake his hand. He was kind of cordial, but, you know, he didn't say much. He didn't say much at all. But I was like in awe of him. I was nervous to even introduce myself.
I didn't know that you guys were doing stuff in Bearsville, but wasn't Safety in Numbers recorded in Quebec?
Yeah, but initially it was supposed to be, we were supposed to start recording on a Monday.
We were supposed to be in England.
Initially they couldn't get,
They said no.
Well, they were actually, I remember them looking into it and stuff and that. But then that got poo-pooed, I think.
But, because they knew nobody was there to watch us. That's what their reason was.
And so then they sent us to Bearsville, I guess. Then they sent us to Bearsville. Yeah, and I remember pre-production rehearsing up there. We probably had, I'm trying to remember, like working up Nuclear. We must have worked on it back home here too at the rehearsal space.
I remember I wrote it in a bus when we were Winnebago thing. Yeah.
Oh, really?
Yeah, because it was. Yeah, I remember doing the guitar part and all that stuff. Yeah.
The da 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 da. That's your lick, right?
Yeah, but I mean the beginning of it. The
acoustic part.
Yeah.
Something's Wrong from the Moon.
Yep.
Yeah. Well, there's just a lot in that piece, and I think one of the great examples of the Crack the Sky piece that just holds up to this moment.
Thank you.
Yeah, and there's a lot of that. You know, the group without John, but then John comes back and does Safety in Numbers as a project later on in this century.
Yeah, right. That was something that Phil, actually, your buddy Phil, came up with. Said,
Robbie. I think that was Robbie's brainchild.
And Robbie with Phil, yeah.
Yeah, because Rob Stevens produced Safety in Number. That was the first album we got to work on, and I think it was always a regret that he would have liked to make the record as the full band. So
yeah,
I think that
I remember when I heard that, I was working someplace and it was like, oh, that's good. That was really good. I thought it was a good record.
What was it, the listening booth, JP? You were
Yeah. I was working in a record
You worked in a record
shop. My wife, everything happened there. And then I left for California. Yeah.
So what was happening in California, John?
Solo album. I was supposed to be with Peter Sullivan. I was supposed to be with George Martin. And Peter Sullivan was his partner. And George was working on the Beatles, the Bee Gees thing. What was that? The Bee Gees, Sgt. Pepper, was it Sgt. Pepper? Or,
the film?
The film with Peter Frampton and all that stuff.
Right. And so George Martin was doing that, and he said so here's me, the idiot. He said, after I'm done, I would like to do yours. And I said, well, I can't wait for that. Well, Peter will do it, his partner. So that's when I did Innocent Bystander out there. Yeah.
Did you move out there or just?
I moved out there for maybe a year.
Oh, no kidding.
Yeah. I loved it out there. I really did. That was my kind of place.
I know what you're saying. I feel the same way.
I'm sorry, what?
I feel the same way. I feel it's a great scene. It's a great place.
And now I have kids. I couldn't do it now. It's, pick up the family and go. I don't think so. So
how old are your kids?
How old are my kids? Oh, geez, that's a good question.
They're not kids anymore.
30. I don't know. They're in their 30s. I have grandchildren. I have 6 grandchildren. Please don't ask me how old they are.
I won't.
Little ones. They're little ones. Yeah.
He was never good at math. He was never good at math.
No good. Memory is the thing. Wow.
So the George Martin thing is interesting because in a sort of parallel to that, in early Crack, you have Terry Minogue, who's doing sort of the arranging and orchestrations and things.
Yeah.
Talk a little bit about him.
Well, he's the guy that really got us signed. He was, like Ricky was saying, we went in to play. He was the guy that would listen. We were trying to get our deal, and excuse me, he got us signed. He's brilliant.
He was a music major. He just graduated Temple University, I believe.
He was brilliant.
And so
he still is. I mean,
he's a Beatle fan also. And
oh yeah.
He knew how to arrange string. I think he was a vocal major. I think.
Yeah, because they would get together. Remember, they would get together in his apartment and sing. They would have like little written out scripted books of songs, and they would all sing harmony together, like 4 or 5 people. It was really bizarre to me, but.
But he was brilliant, and he was the first guy that believed in us.
Yeah.
That got us going. That was it just so happened that there was nobody else. Every place we would contact in the city, well, yeah, send us your tape.
Right.
He
had no tape, right?
We had no tape. We wanted. So Terry heard us, and we got him from the first song. And so. His influence was major. Without Terry Minogue, Crack the Sky might not have happened.
And he was
for sure. Yeah.
And he was arranging the horns and the strings for you guys, which I think was a huge part of that material for me, because it just takes it to another level of color and texture and kind of even imagery.
He also liked Paul Buckmaster a lot. He got a lot from Paul Buckmaster. Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah. He loved him. So did I. That was,
Is that the guy that did Elton's strings?
yeah.
You also work with Miles.
Oh,
Yeah, Buckmaster. That's interesting. Not a lot of people mention Paul Buckmaster. What stuff were you into of his, John?
From Elton John. From the stuff he did with Elton John, Red Diamond Mission and the
Madman Across the Water, right?
yeah. I mean, he was just he used cellos like you never heard before, and yeah, he was great. I don't even know if he's still alive and doing work. I have no idea.
That's a good question. I'm not sure.
I haven't seen or heard anything from him in a while.
It was Gus Dudgeon that produced it, though, right? Gus Dudgeon
Right.
didn't do the arrangements, did he?
No. Buckmaster did the arrangement. Yeah.
Gotcha. Okay.
Well, I mean, and there's all that, come down on time, and there's the Baroque pop approach of those guys.
Yeah.
I always felt like that had a nice home, a kind of resonance in Crack the Sky music too.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Good. Thank you.
Stuff like Sleep when we did.
Yeah.
Yeah, Ice even had really cool string writing in it.
Yeah. Oh yeah.
Brilliant. It's brilliant. I think he
Yeah.
did.
Harry he's really something. He really is.
I can remember on I brought up Sleep. We brought in that
Bagpipe.
what's his name? Oh yeah, the bagpipe.
Yeah.
We were doing the sessions of that song, and George Marge. We had a guy doing the flute. I think his name was George Marge.
He did clarinet, George.
And clarinet and
Yeah.
flute for that.
Who did the flute?
But Terry was saying we had that dream thing at the end. He says, "Man, it'd be cool to have bagpipes in that thing." and we literally, I mean, he was talking about it. We talked, and then we went out and grabbed a bite, and also we heard bagpipes playing.
Yeah.
We were like, and we
He was
tracked
in front of the church. He was
out
playing.
on the street playing. We said. We literally pulled him in the studio, said, "Hey, you want to be on a record?" And he came in and did that ending for Sleep at the end of the record.
We thought we caught somebody from the street. And when he got done, he handed a union card to whoever was producing us. He wanted,
Yeah, that was
he
terrible.
wanted scale.
Really? I don't remember that.
Yeah. It was
I do remember him being on the street playing.
Yeah, in front of in front of the church, so he would play along with the bells.
Yeah. It was down at the big studio down CBS Studios in the Village down there.
USC,
Yeah. That's where.
How long did you guys live in New York?
Couple of years.
I lived there from 1975 to 1980.
Yeah, I think I didn't live there that long.
You moved away sooner. I stuck around.
Yeah, I couldn't.
What part of town?
I was all over. My favorite part was Upper West Side, 70 between 76 and 77 West End Avenue.
In West End Avenue, yeah.
That's where my wife was living when I first met her, actually.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's a nice neighborhood. La Caridad.
Oh, right. We were right down the street from Dakota.
Yeah,
Yes.
right.
We would see
That's
Lennon and Yoko a lot. We would see him walking around.
Down the street. Yep.
Yeah,
That's
that's
my
when he was
contact with
like,
John.
I don't want to hide anymore. He wanted to be out with the people.
Well, and then the cafe, the Italian joint around the corner, they would go in there.
Oh, the burger joint. I love that. The
Yeah.
burger joint and the pizza joint. They were down from each other, but there was a connection behind the stores that you could go.
Right.
And they were owned by the same people. I
Yeah.
love that. I love those places.
And they have like courtyards in the back where you could sit outside.
Yeah.
A great neighborhood.
That was a great neighborhood, yeah.
So your wife lived. Columbia University was up a little bit further
And
up.
up in the hundreds, but like that whole area, there's collegiate school was there, and my wife taught at collegiate, and they would actually give the teachers apartments in that same building if they wanted.
Wow.
So there was no commute. It was
Wow, that's nice.
doesn't exist anymore.
No.
Well, don't even start talking about New York real estate, but
Right.
because that could tangentially lead us to another topic on New York real estate people. But anyway, I did want to talk to you guys about the fact that you're so prolific and you've been consistently active more or less for 45 years. And how many albums now? There's 17 albums?
17, Rick?
Well, yeah,
I don't know.
they say 20 something. But I mean, it depends on how if you count compilations and all that kind of stuff. I at least 17, original records without being compilations involved. So.
John, are you writing all the time? What are you up to?
It's all I do. It's my job. I write. And I love writing. That's my favorite thing to do with music. That and recording. Recording is a lot of fun, huh, Rick?
Oh yeah, absolutely.
Recording is just, Rick is a producer, so I love that part. Playing live, I could take or leave. Still.
Never big on playing live.
Nah, I just, I don't even know why. It's the third thing that I like doing, in music. Yeah.
Are you a reluctant frontman?
Yeah.
Like Andy Partridge.
Who?
Do you know XTC?
Oh, yeah.
Oh, sure. Yeah.
Yeah.
It was really like that. Yeah.
Well, to the point that they stopped.
Yeah.
So they became studio only after English Settlement, which is like 82, 83. Yeah. So then they became studio only like the Beatles. But, that was the thing, is they loved the studio. He loved the studio. He didn't like being the front man. And, it struck me that you're a wonderful front man, but I can tell that you're maybe not as comfortable as you'd like to be.
And I'm really not a wonderful frontman. Wonderful frontmen dance around and jump in the air and.
Well, but there's an intensity there that I like, which is.
Thank you. I appreciate it. It's I'm very, very inhibited there. I hate the time when we have space between the songs. It drives me, which is why we don't have much space between the songs.
You don't.
I got nothing to say. It's hi, Cleveland,
But I hope you won't mind me saying Crack the Sky is one of the tightest live bands I've ever seen.
No, I don't mind. Thank you.
I don't mind you saying it, no.
In fact, when you guys were playing live at NJ Prog House and when you guys were playing at Sellersville, my son, who's a very serious musician and drummer, I said to him, you've got to see Crack the Sky live. And so I took him to NJ Prog House, is where I said hi to Rick after that show.
Okay.
And then
we're
also
ProgCast this weekend, as a matter of fact.
I want to talk about that, but I just want to know that, like,
Rick, I sent you out forwarded. They want something, and I couldn't figure out what they want. They want some kind of interview and something else.
Okay.
We'll do that and see what it is.
Okay, we'll do that after we get off the phone.
Yeah.
But just to say that, I made sure that my son, who's a drummer, saw you guys, and he grew up with the material. He grew up with the Spider-Man record, which I know that John didn't sing on, but, the Dr. Octopus track was big in our house.
Oh, cool.
Because we're comic book guys, but in addition to that, big rock guys. And he was blown away when he saw how tight you guys were. And that's sort of the level, like it's taking him to see the Zappa guys, taking him to see the Todd shows that I've been on, that there's a kind of level that you guys uphold that I think is just wonderful and timeless, because that, to me, I would often say to my son, this is what rock bands should have been when you hear groups like Crack the Sky, where it's not going to get boring and it's not going to stay in one place forever. And, it's going to have multiple directions. It's going to have feel changes. It's going to have mood changes. It's going to have instrumentals. And that's one of the things that I know that anybody can grab when they hear Crack the Sky live. And I think that's the transformation. If you ever want to create a new Crack the Sky fan, take the person to see the band live.
Oh, great. Thank you, Greg.
Thank you. That's so sweet.
Yeah.
So what's up these days for y'all?
New
Rick, you
album.
say you have a show coming up?
Shows a new album, double album coming out. Yeah.
No, it's not double. It's
Yeah.
a double vinyl.
Vinyl is double album, yeah.
Yeah. But yeah, I guess so. I guess you could call it double. Yeah, you're right.
Double album.
It's like 3-sided, and the 4-side we're including some tracks from Crackology
Right.
beside 4. Because the original running length of our LP or our album
was like
almost an hour's worth of material, and that's just too much to put on vinyl. You physically can't put it on. So we split it. The label graciously said that for optimum sound quality, we did 3 sides, and then the 4th side.
And the 4th for right.
Yeah. So I guess you're right, JP. It's dope. And we had a lot of gigs that were supposed to come up, but we ended up, the COVID situation, obviously, we had a lot of cancellations this year. So they pushed back the release till 2015, January 2015. Although it's been done for like almost over a year now.
Yeah,
but,
2021 you're talking about.
I meant 2021. What did I say? It's January 15th, 2021. Yeah.
Right.
It's going to be the release date. So.
And yeah, playing is the only thing we're playing. We're playing virtually at that ProgFest thing.
Next weekend. I think it's, we're on Sunday.
Weekend coming up, yeah.
On
11th.
Yeah.
11th, yeah.
Yep.
And then we're playing in Annapolis, but that's going to be bizarre. They have plexiglass screen in front of the stage. And I don't know how we're going to do with that, Ricky.
And it's only going to be like a quarter capacity. So and they had been closed for through the whole period, and they're just opening back up. And we were originally supposed to be booked there November 6th, 7th, and 8th, and we just found out like a week ago that they wanted we still would do it, and with obviously we're going to take a pay cut because you can't put bodies, enough bodies. It was like a 1/4 of the capacity. So, but we really do want to play in the Rams Theater. That's what it's traditionally we play there every November.
Yeah.
And we usually do 3 nights there. We do a Friday, Saturday, and a Sunday matinee. We're gonna that'll be our first live back since March. We haven't played
long time. Yeah. Right.
How do you feel about going back to vinyl?
He's not a fan. JP's not.
I'm not a vinyl.
I'm not either, by the way. But go ahead.
Yeah, it doesn't sound as good to me. It loses a lot of dimension, but there are people who just swear that's it sounds better than CD. I no.
It sounds different.
It does sound different. I'll tell you,
Softer.
it's easier on the ears. It's
it
easier.
is. It's mellow.
It's smoother. It's smoother high end. At least I had to go through a test pressing of ours, and I sat through the whole thing, and my ears weren't as fatigued. If I were to do that with the CD at the level, at a decent level where you could feel it, my ears would be hurting.
Yeah.
Well, will you do other formats for this release besides vinyl?
Yeah, it is going to be CD also, and
CD and digital digital download. Yeah.
Yep.
And
so
what's this material like? What is it focusing on for you guys?
A lot of it is kind of not a lot of it. Some of it's political, and I think some of it is. You were talking about the first album where everything is kind of like there's this bit, there's that bit, and and strings are in it, and
it's eclectic. It's eclectic, right?
So we're very happy with it, and it's different. Yeah.
What's it going to be called?
Tribes.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Very timely.
Yes, it is. And they've released 2 cuts so far. Tribes, which is the title track, and the second track was Another Civil War, and that that just came out like a week or so ago, and it's with this temperature of the country. We were going to feature 3 songs, and the third song was going to be a song called "Dear Leaders," and I think
We're already getting pushback. Yeah.
Really?
Sure. Country is really screwed up. People are very, very obviously split, but there's so much anger and hatred. It's really scary out there. So even though I was very careful not to take sides either way, yeah, but there was some pushback already. Yeah.
From
some fans.
Yeah.
On
So
the,
do you
Facebook.
have like conservative fans?
Pardon me?
Do you have like conservative right-wing
Oh
fans?
my God, yeah. Yes,
And
we do.
we have within our band, like I'm a conservative, but I'm not
Nuts.
I'm not a right-wing extreme conservative.
Right.
And my feelings about the president, I'm not crazy about the man. Trump is definitely not one of my favorite characters, but even within the band, we have differing views.
Yeah.
But our whole thing, we weren't taking sides. We were making observations. We're tribes. We're all taking our stand, and we're not coming together. And agreeing on anything. We're just getting more divided. And
Well, you're painting a picture.
Yeah, we're painting.
It's an observation. That's what it is, an observation of what's going on, and without taking any kind of side. Sure.
And I think what might have been just misleading about another civil war, JP, I was telling you about, the opening line of the song says, "You call me libtard, I call you Walmart."
Right.
There ain't no truth there, just brothers apart. Now he was writing that as in the third person, but people said, by him saying "you call me libtard," automatically you're thinking you're the libtard, and
could be.
I think instead of presenting that's what's causing a lot of the conflict. But he was making it as an observation. And the line says that "you hate me because I don't think like you. I hate you." Looks like we're heading to another civil war, and that is what's happening in the country. And I think people took that a little literally.
I think they did. Yeah.
That's my opinion, and that's why I got so much blowback from that.
Yeah.
It's funny, John, that you said observation, because I don't know if you guys remember this, but the subtitle of "In the Court of the Crimson King" is an observation by King Crimson.
Oh, yeah?
Remember that?
I don't remember that at all.
That's on the album. But it's such a big part of the artist's role, I think, is to make these observations and sort of paint the picture, hold a mirror up to society. And I don't think that you guys have ever fallen short on that. It's something that you've been very involved with over the years. And in fact, I'll point out that I think you've been on the right side of history when you're supporting veteran affairs, which is something you've done consistently.
Oh, sure. Yeah.
Yep, absolutely.
And I always wondered, like, where does that come from for you, John or Rick? But I know that you've been very dedicated to that.
Well, my father was your dad a vet, Ricky?
My dad was a Pearl Harbor survivor. Yeah.
Yeah. See, my dad was, so our fathers were there. And I have certainly a lot of friends from Vietnam that went over. It's just respect. I can't imagine how people don't respect those guys.
Yep.
I was lucky. I didn't have to go. But they're heroes.
Yep. The greatest generation. They were. Yep.
Yeah.
It's total respect.
Yeah.
And anyone would sacrifice their life for the sake of us, trying to protect the country.
Right.
They got my respect, and I'll do anything I can to help out with them.
Yeah, it seems like anybody can twist that any way they want, but those facts remain. They did stand up and they did sacrifice.
Yeah.
So the new album is coming out in January. That's the idea.
I heard January 15th. January 15th, 2021.
Do you already have a pressing plant lined up? Because I hear the vinyl surge is creating backups at the pressing plant.
Oh, it's pressed. Yeah.
We signed off. We signed off on the test pressing.
Yeah.
It's being in France. It's being done in France. From France.
I'm just so glad that you guys are going strong and still putting stuff out. You're still as relevant as ever. I encourage people that if you have not checked out Crack the Sky, that there's plenty of live video up on YouTube, but go and get the albums. What do you think is the most recent album that you wish people would hear from Crack the Sky, besides the new one?
This one.
Besides that one, he said. Besides that. JP, you want to go first or no?
I don't. You know what, Greg? I have such a low threshold of boredom that once an album is finished, I'm kind of like done with it. And not to say that the album before this one was very good. It's just I couldn't even tell you the title. What's the title of the album?
I think Reverse was before this one.
Reverse, thank you. Which was pretty good, But I'm sorry, I can't answer the question. It's just like
I got a couple that I loved. Ostrich. Beauty of Nothing was right after that, and Living Reverse. Those three. I personally love all three of those, and going back in the day, like our very first album, I love that one. Just its self-debut title. White Music is another one that I really loved. That one. That was my first chance of being a producer. I actually get me and Terry. I get production credit on that one, so I personally love that one. But there are a ton of great records. From the Greenhouse is another good one. And
that one.
Yeah, you like that one, JP, right?
Yeah, I do.
Now I have to give to my man major props. He wrote a song back in it was 85, 86, I think you wrote that something. It's about global warming, and it's still, we still play it live, and he was definitely ahead of his time on that one.
Yeah, From the Greenhouse is awesome.
Yeah.
And again, it's like I love the fact that the lyrics remain relevant and observant of what we're going through in the human experience.
Yeah, right now we are.
Yep.
Yeah.
Well, gentlemen, I appreciate you guys taking the time to chat. It's been wonderful talking and finding out some of the behind the scenes stuff with one of my favorite bands.
Thank you so much. I'm glad you're here, Rick, because your memory is great. Yeah, you did that whole timeline thing. That's great.
I don't know, you might check the facts on that sometime too. But Greg, you're such a gracious host, and you were just I'm blown away that you know our stuff that much, and thank you for being so cordial. It was awesome.
Thank you, Greg.
I appreciate you guys saying that. I do have a genuine and long abiding love for your music. And when I started this podcast a couple months ago, you were right at the top of my list of people that I wanted to talk to, and hope to expose more people to your music, because I just think one of the best, one of the tightest, one of the most interesting, and one of the most underrated of American bands, Crack the Sky.
Your check's in the mail, by the way.
Thank you, Greg.
And the website is crackthesky.com, where you can find out about any live performances, and also connect and find this band's music and all the updates and all the news on that. So make sure you visit crackthesky.com. We'll have a link for that at the end as well.
Yeah, and Carry On Music, right? Did you say that? That's our new label.
The label. Yeah, Carry On Music.
Carry On Music is the new label. Is that a label that you're involved with, or is it a label that you guys are working with?
We're working with.
Not ours. We don't own it, but we're signed to it.
We're signed, and it used to be the president of Carry On was the president of Loud and Proud, which our Living in Reverse was on our last album. Now it's a brand new label, and I believe we're going to be one of the first releases. Yeah. If not the first, we're definitely one of the first.
Well, I'm jealous that you guys are going to work with an open fold double LP, which I miss so much. And we can have all the lyrics and all the images and everything.
Well, they did it on the CD too. They got the lyrics on. I don't know how they did that, but they did.
Yes.
They did a great job on the cover.
It's the one thing I miss about vinyl is that we used to sit there and just stare.
Sure.
Roger Dean's universes and these things. And
I know.
Right?
Yep.
So, we're going to be doing some Bottom Line vinyl as well. Coming up, we have a Bill Evans show and a few others, Taj Mahal and Peter Tosh. And you can do so much with the open gatefold, as they say. So I'm looking forward to seeing what Crack the Sky is going to do with that. Any other shout outs or plugs you guys would like to do?
Yeah, just to our fans, they've been, over the years, have been very, very, supportive of the band. And that's incredible that they've stuck with it, and then they brought their children into it. And I think the shout out is to them.
Yep, I ditto that.
Well, there's certainly a level to your work that evinces a kind of loyalty among people like myself. And
you're a crackhead, Greg? Or are you a crackhead?
Is that politically correct, Rick?
That's we always kind of nicknamed them. The dead has their dead heads. We got our crackhead.
Right, crackhead. Yeah.
I'm totally a crackhead, and the only reason I didn't wear the T-shirt that I have is because I used it recently in another interview.
Okay.
Yeah, totally. So, guys, keep doing it. You're an inspiration, and it means so much that bands who really mean it can stick to their guns and stick to their message and keep producing great music. So thank you for that, and thank you for taking time today.
Thank you for having us.
Everybody, thank you for watching. This has been Gregg Bendian and the ProgCast with my guests Rick Witkowski and John Palumbo. And again, look for their music if you don't already have it. And if you do, then you are a very hip person, I think. So.
Thanks, Greg.
Okay. Thanks, guys.
Bye-bye.
Like and subscribe, everyone. Bye-bye.
Bye.
The summer night has changed its warmer breezes to the icy cold of silent winter freezes. Will you be there when the flowers in the windows of the neighbors start to bow their frozen heads and to leave us? Will I see you there?